Warning. Listener discretion advisory for the following program. It contains explicit language, controversial takes, and tangents that'll make your head spin. All opinions expressed are just that, opinions, and belong solely to those who speak them. This is...
What an excellent day for an August.
You'd like that?
Are you fucking nuts?
Pray to your God. I want you to pray that he comes and saves you.
Do I look like someone who cares what God thinks?
Spoilers ahead.
Welcome, horror fiends, to episode 121 of What an Excellent Day for a Podcast. And as always, subscribe, share, and give us a nice, fat, juicy rating and review, letting the whole world know why this is the greatest horror podcast in all of northern South Jersey. Now, before we get started, just a few notes to touch on. First of all, and I guess more importantly, at the time of this episode's release, we are supposed to be right in the center of Snowmageddon 2026 Part 2 for all you French people out there. So if you're listening to this and you're within the blast zone of this weather ordeal, I hope everyone's safe out there. And if the cabin fever hits a little too hard, feel free to go back and listen to the rest of our catalog. It'll definitely put some things into perspective. And the other big news being that I've been in touch with some of the other nerds, and it seems like they're in the early stages of the smoke clearing with their situations, so hopefully, in the somewhat near future, we may be getting some returns to the show. So we got that going for us, which is nice. Now, this episode is being brought to you in part by Big Brother. Because over the course of the week, as I've been trying to think about what to do for this week, a lot of things have been popping up in my feed or conversations on social media that reminded me that there are movies out there where my judgment or opinions on these movies have kind of taken on a life of their own, and I'm just kind of on autopilot, either praising it or shitting on it, in some cases just because I know it gets a rise out of people. But then I realize it's been such a long time since previous watches of a handful of movies that it's only fair that I revisit them and see if it's my genuine feelings on a movie or if this is just blind rage bait for the sake of it. So I went back, rewatched some shit, and took it all in with a more fair and balanced state of mind. And I'm going to start this journey off with everybody's favorite movie of 2023, Skinamarink. Now, relax. As you can tell by the length of this episode, I am not gonna do a complete walkthrough of this fucking movie again. But I have come to the realization it's probably been a solid year since I've last seen this movie, yet every time it comes up, I am sucking it off, I am giving it all kinds of praise, and despite initially having a fondness of this movie, most of the time, I am sucking it off merely for the displeasure of whoever I'm talking to. But have I genuinely liked this movie? And if so, has it held up? Well, I went back to rewatch it, and I did it in the exact way I've told everyone to do it. In a blackened room with the volume cranked. And what was my takeaway from it this time? Sorry, I still like the fucking movie. In fact, I think I might like it a little more than I did before. Now, I don't remember what my rating was when we actually discussed this. What, 3 years ago at this point? Yeah, I know, it's that fucking old. Hell, sometimes I'm even talking about Avengers Endgame as if that was 3 years ago. Holy shit, are we getting old. But yeah, I sat down one evening, the living room completely blacked out, only illuminated by the glow of the television. Crank that surround sound up to the threshold where I know the neighbors and or authorities aren't going to get involved. And in a sense, I felt the movie worked a little more. It was a little creepier. And I get it. Nothing fucking happens in this movie. But, especially on a first time watch, which was kind of the mentality I went in with this time, it's kind of terrifying. Like, if you go into this, and yeah, I know I'm spoiling it now, and for those of you who haven't seen it yet, I don't know, go back and watch it. But the whole time, you're dreading on what's going to happen, on what's going to come out. And I get the letdown of nothing actually happening. But that anticipation for that, 99, 100 minutes of what's going to happen, and I feel like this time around, or maybe this is me just trying to justify whatever, could be my psychosis over the last couple years, but really staring at, like, well, I'm not going to say every frame, I'm not going to pretend like I analyzed it that hard, but just focusing on, like, everything going on there, it almost felt like, yeah, you kind of did see some things going on. Maybe more than the first 5 or 6 times I've watched it. And as we touched on when we did our episode on the movie, I love the fan theory out there. Now, I don't know what else has gone down since then. Maybe I should look into it, see what other new theories are out there. But I've always liked the one thrown out there of, in the beginning, when Kevin falls down the stairs and hits his head, that this movie is him slipping into a coma. And throughout the movie, his brain, his memories, what have you, are just slowly slipping away. And when you get that little day count towards the end of the movie, that's how long he's been in this coma, eventually slipping away from us all. And it feels like that makes the movie hit a little harder. But even if you go with Kyle Edward Ball's public analysis of the movie, that this is just a child's nightmare, it still works on that level too. Like, that wasn't the part that scared me, but watching it this time, it was kind of reminiscent of that. Like, I remember some of my childhood dreams and the vagueness of it, that gritty shot and how faces are blurred and you kind of see things, but you kind of don't. Like, you almost can't see things that are there, but you think you see things that aren't. Even the sound, like the cartoons playing, half the times you almost can't make out what's being said on them. Like, it's so distorted and muffled. Again, that's like a vagueness you would get even as an adult, like in your dreams, in some cases nightmares. And also you have this thing lingering above you the whole time, telling you to do things, telling you not to do things, doing fucked up things to you and your sister. It's just, again, nothing happens in the movie ultimately, but it's more of an experience. And it just feels like if you just sit and take it in as that, I just think that more people would give it a little more credit. But I get it. It's not for everyone. So I would recommend going back to our episode 7, listening to that. Yeah, I'm being lazy. But whatever rating I gave on that, I'm going to throw in an extra half a point for it. Unless it was a 7.5 or above, then I'll keep it at where it is, but with more sincerity this time. I like the movie. I get why a lot of people, I don't know, it's not even, I don't think I've even heard anybody say, I didn't care for it, or I didn't like it. It's usually, I liked it. I don't know if I've ever sincerely heard anybody say they love the movie, but a lot of people will absolutely not shy away from, fuck that movie. Not gonna name names. You know who you are. All of you. But you know what? I'm not gonna sit here and preach like, oh, this got snubbed at the Oscars, or this deserves this, or this deserves that. But I will defend the movie as being good. It accomplished what Kyle set out to do, and I'm a fan. Do I hype it up more than it deserves? Absolutely. But it's just so much fun. But I will honestly defend it as being a shot at an experimental film simulating a child's nightmare. Mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. Go ahead, hit me up online. I'm willing to fight for this one. As I was wrapping up this rewatch of the almighty Mr. Marink, another movie came to mind that I've only seen once. Well, mostly once. And if you go back to our 2024 year-end wrap-up episodes, you'll know that I shit hard on this movie. But also admitted that after doing some research on it, I didn't quite get what they were going for in this. And I swore 2 years ago, well, about 2 years ago, that I was going to go back and rewatch it with new eyes. Well, better late than never. I finally got around to sitting down and rewatching I Saw the TV Glow. And again, when I sat down to watch it the first time, it was a little later in the evening. I was fighting off some drowsiness, and I did doze off once or twice throughout. And this is definitely a movie you got to be completely focused on the whole time. So what did I think of it this time around? I did go all this time thinking that I missed a lot more than I actually did. There were elements of this that did hit differently, not only since finding out what the movie was supposed to be about, but then also watching it more awake, more alert, and actually watching its entirety. I do believe I said early on that everything about this movie on paper should be right up my alley. If nothing else, for the coloring of it, because apparently in my old age, that's all that matters in a movie. Make it colorful, I'm all fucking in. But whether or not I admitted it, I did think even then it was acted well, it was shot well, and just the overall style of it was good. This time around, I did enjoy it more than 2 years ago. But did it actually fully get me? Not so much. But I will say this, as far as a jump in ratings go, this might hold my record. Because I believe initially it was a full-on, fuck this movie, I'm giving it like a -12 or whatever random number I threw out there. But this time around, I think I'm going to give it, I don't know, 4? 4? It still didn't blow me away. Like I said, from a technical end, I will acknowledge that it is a good, well-done movie, and I definitely understood it better. Even if I wasn't given the knowledge as to what the intent of the movie was, I still got the story more. Even though it did deliver better this time around because the synopsis, the trailers for it did, or at least for me, and I know others who have said the same thing, kind of led you to believe that there was more of like a supernatural thing going on. You know, there were going to be more horror elements to it. But this still, for me, plays as borderline, not thriller, I don't know. But for me, this movie is rooted more of like a teen drama. And I'm not saying that in itself is a horrible thing, or even a bad thing. But it didn't strike that horror nerve that I was hoping it would tickle a little bit. But again, there was a level of enjoyment this time around. And if the moment struck, I'm not going to say I would never rewatch this movie. Is it something I'm going to shoot to rewatch? This is probably more of if somebody brought it up and they were even remotely curious about it, I would be like, here you go. Let's sit down and we'll watch it. But is it something even once a year? It'd be like, hey, it'd be nice to go back to that. Now, knowing how much of a jump it got from my initial reaction to now, yeah, I'm probably going to squeeze at least one more viewing in. But any subsequent watches beyond that will be for research purposes or by request. And, you know, hey, I'm not above taking a bribe either. So for anyone out there who has not yet watched this and their taste is more of like, you know, artsy, borderline trippy horror movies, definitely go and watch this. And I do get the hypocrisy of how I can go praising Skinamarink and not this, where in both cases artistic liberties were taken. But hey, have I ever claimed to have consistent taste? Nah. Now, as I was watching this, a huge takeaway I got from it was possibly the most ridiculous theory. And this wasn't the intent of watching these two movies. It was just something that kind of hit while wrapping up I Saw the TV Glow. And that is, wait for it, could these two movies be in the same universe? I'm going to give you a second so you can come to terms with the fact, yes, those fucking words came out of my mouth. Okay, still functioning? Still here? Good. And for the record, I was stone sober while watching both of these movies. I was only under the influence of having watched them back to back. Could it be that Skinamarink was Owen's dream? The first thought of this came up when it was one of the earlier shots of Mr. Melancholy from the Pink Opaque And something about the face reminded me of the face at the very end of Skinamarink. The one that just kind of fades in from the shadows before telling Kevin to go to sleep. And I know the first big fuck you I'm going to get from everyone is Owen was black, Kevin was white. Now, I could be wrong on this. I believe that Fred Durst was his biological father, correct? Or was he a stepfather? I thought it was his actual father. But then also, how many times have we all dreamt that we were someone other than ourselves? In fact, I'm sure many of you out there, like when you're dreaming, are you actually looking at yourself in the mirror, or any reflection for that matter? You don't know what you look like in your dreams. You could be a completely different person. We just assume that we are our real world selves. Or, I'm not necessarily going to die on that specific hill. Maybe Owen is Kevin's nocturnal alter ego. It could go either way. I'm just doing this for the whole DDP, ultra super duper yoga, stretches and reaches in order to connect these two movies at all. Because I'm having fun with it. And you got to admit, whether or not you like Skinamarink, it's a very melancholic... Is that an actual word? I don't know. It sounds like one. Probably is, but I'm illiterate, so... But yes, there's a very melancholy tone about Skinamarink. So for Mr. Melancholy to show up at the end of the movie kind of makes sense. In both movies, we have our lead characters doing awful things to themselves with a utility knife. And then there's Owen's love for Maddie in a sisterly kind of way. So perhaps Maddie, in this alternate dream world, is Kaylee. And Kaylee had her mouth removed for not doing what she's told. And then you have Maddie, in a sense, is in this conspiratorial world where her silence may be the desired outcome from the powers that be. And in both movies, the sisterly element has been eliminated before the movie's end. In both films, we have parallels between the in-universe real world and what's being consumed on their televisions. A very traumatic moment for Owen was the loss of his mother, and in Skinamarink, I don't want to talk about Mom. Because in that movie, even though they don't flat out say it, there is an element of trauma around Mom. At the birthday party scene, at the end of I Saw the TV Glow, what does Owen scream out? Ding, 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 correct, that he is dying. And towards the end of Skinamarink, what do we get? The loop of somebody dying over and over. And here's an obvious one I almost overlooked. Both movies at least start off in the same time period. And this one's going to be the biggest stretch of them all. But by the end of Owen's cinematic adventures, he is working at a fun zone. A place loaded with games and attractions catered towards little kids. Much like in his dream world, where all their toys and, of course, the Legos are scattered all over the place. Now, I know by the time this episode comes out, I'm going to be motherfucking myself over a ton of other ones that I probably forgot about or just completely overlooked, but these were just the ones off the top of my head. And I know how in the beginning, when I was talking about Skinamarink, that in my headcanon, that whole movie was just a coma-induced dream for Kevin. But this is a theory that I'm definitely having a lot more fun with, and I'm guessing it probably had something to do with why it brought my rating for I Saw the TV Glow up so much. So let us know, do you agree with this theory, or is this just more senseless ramblings from the proud resident Polak on the show? And if you do agree with this, or at least agree that there's some grounds for this theory, let me know what other common ground you found between these two. So, while you think about that, I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to get back to the final part of this episode. Welcome back to a little bonus review to wrap up this episode. This is a movie that, despite implications, I have never seen before. I've referenced knowing this movie only because I've heard all about it. I got all the gory details, and I figured it was time to put on my big boy pants and give this a shot. Now, part of the seed might have been planted because Big Brother was making references to it, or maybe it's from coming up in a little drive-by reference on my little guest spot on the Body Count Continues podcast where we discuss martyrs. Huge thanks again to Marianne and Evil for letting me be part of it. All right, enough stalling. This movie is the divisive, the controversial 2002 release from Gasparino, Irreversible. And, wow. This was a movie. This is one that goes on the list of, I don't know, anything I say about this is going to be fucked up. So it's not that I don't regret watching it. I mean, I guess being a huge fan of disturbing horror, this had to get checked off the list, but you'll never hear me reference this as a fun watch. Did it break me? No. I do get why most people, if they even made it through it, vowed to never watch it again. Am I saying that's the case with me? No. Am I in any rush to go out and see it again? No. It's another case of the director came in with a goal, he accomplished that goal, and put the fucking guy on the map. Everybody in the horror community knows about this movie. So, if this is something you have not yet seen, and I can't even say want to see it, but if you have intentions in checking it off your list, but don't want anything spoiler, this is your chance to tap out. For those of you who may not actually be familiar with this movie, or haven't cared enough, and I don't blame you, to look into it at all as far as its genesis, any of the behind the scenes stuff, but basically Noah was looking to do a follow-up to his first feature, which was I Stand Alone, and I didn't catch if he was looking to one-up that, because there was also a little bit of controversy on that one. When it came around to him pitching the movie, he did say one of the things he wanted right out of the gate was to have an actual real-life couple, kind of like Kubrick with Eyes Wide Shut. And at the time, the local it couple was Monica Bellucci and Vincent Cassel. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I remember Monica Bellucci, though. So he managed to get them on board and ended up pitching a movie of the two of them playing a couple, and the movie is going to be presented in reverse. And I guess that was enough to get it greenlit. At the time they started shooting the movie, he only had, it was like 3 or 4 pages written. So 90% of this movie was ad-lib. And I think that absolutely added to the realism of it all. And there was also, I've seen it on Tubi, and I never got around to watching it because I wanted to watch the original movie, but apparently there's also the straight cut of the movie where he went and pieced all the scenes together in chronological order. Now, having seen this, I would be curious to at least watch it that way, because it sounds kind of split as to whether or not it takes away from the impact of the original movie. I could see how that's the case, but I'd like to find out firsthand. And of course, me being a sick fuck, I did find a little chuckle from the irony of, if you have seen this and you go in the first 10-15 minutes of this movie, for him to call this alternate version the straight cut, yeah, it's kind of ironic. Because I don't remember the last time I heard so many F-bombs. Not fuck, but how many F-bombs were thrown around, like just condensed in half the first act of the movie. Or is it the third act? I don't know. Yeah, I'll try to refrain from making too many backwards fucking jokes about this. But hey, gotta find something to giggle at because there's nothing to laugh about in this movie. So one more time, if you don't want this spoiled, or if, again, I get it, if this is the kind of shit you don't want to hear about, now's your chance to run away. Still here? Good. So the movie opens up with 2 people in like an upstairs apartment. One of them, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but apparently it was a tie-over character from I Stand Alone. And he's discussing to this other man about not very good things he's done. And not having seen it, I'm assuming these are things he does in the other movie. As they're talking, we hear some sirens and commotion going on outside, and then that's when we transition down to the streets. Apparently, below this apartment is a club for people of a certain sexual persuasion, and I've also heard it's like a lifestyle club. Either way, it seems like, at least to this guy upstairs, unsavory activities are going on in the business below him. We go down to this bar, and we find Marcus and Pierre, two friends, more or less barging their way into this club, asking around because they need to find the Tenya. Some of the guys in this club don't want no parts of this, and hey man, I don't know them. Others are being a little confrontational, and some of them are like,
Hey there, big guy. Why don't you come on over here?
everything in these shots are just, the camera movement is just all over the fucking place. He does a great job of, this is intended to keep you disoriented, and it fucking works. Everything's very dark. You really don't make out who's who in here. Like, you just see that there's other people there, but the camera is so frantic, you never really focus in on any of these people you're passing. Not to mention, it's very dark. It's very red lighting going on. So for him to be portraying like this is the seedy underbelly of the neighborhood, mission accomplished. So they're fighting their way through to the club. They finally find a guy that says, I know Tenya. And he takes him over, and there's these two guys. It looks like you have the man they're looking for, and I get either one of his associates or like a bodyguard. Either way, these guys, especially Marcus, like, you could tell he's fucking had it. He's on a mission. He's ready to do some things to this guy, and not the kind of things you would typically see in this club. And the whole time, Pierre is like, he's there to support Marcus, but he don't want any parts with this. It's kind of like he's the rational one of the two. He's definitely more calculated. But we get a confrontation. Marcus gets knocked on his ass. They break his fucking arm. So Pierre comes in, fucking blindsides the guy, and fucking pummels his face with a fire extinguisher. And the way they pulled this off, I know we're always shitting on CGI, but this was a scene where it was used masterfully. The way they gave you that hybrid of practical and CGI, it almost made me uncomfortable. It really looked like somebody was getting their fucking head caved in. So then we go into the next / previous scene where Marcus and Pierre are frantically going through the streets trying to get information because something about Alex, and they need to avenge Alex. So they're talking to the man on the street who knows a guy who knows a guy. You hear all this talk about, hey, you gotta fucking pay me. There's ladies of the evening that are being questioned. May or may not have gentlemen of the evening. But it's through this streetwise interrogation that they get the name of the guy they're looking for. Boom. Off to the next one, where I believe this is where they're at another crime scene, and Pierre is being questioned by a cop. And basically what it comes down to is Alex is Marcus's girlfriend. But then we also eventually find out that Marcus may have accidentally stolen Alex from Pierre, but that does get addressed. It turns out that Alex is coming out on a stretcher, and her face, like she was beaten within an inch of her life. The paramedics or the cops or one of the emergency services there were saying that she's in a fucking coma. They're taking her off to the hospital, and you see, both of them, but especially Marcus. He's definitely the loose cannon in this movie. And you just see him completely distraught. But then you have these two guys come up, and they're like, do you really want the cops to take care of this? We know people who know people. We could find you whoever did this, and you can get your revenge. Because that's a basic human right of yours, to get revenge. By the time you get through all the paperwork, the bureaucracy, and all that other shit with the cops, even if they do find the guy, he's going to be rotting in a cell. We have the means to help you guys see to it that whoever did this will never do it again. And this is about the time where you see that little switch go off in Marcus, from where he's not mourning because she is still alive, but let's just say that, going from mourning to completely raging and vengeful. Next scene is, for anyone who is at least familiar with this movie or the legend of this story, this is where we get that scene. we have Alex leaving a building. She goes out, waiting across the street, when another lady waiting explains, you know what, it'd probably be easier for you to just cross in the tunnel. So she goes into the tunnel. Again, very dark, very red. She walks up on a couple that's down there, and the guy of this couple ain't having none of whatever the fuck was going on, and he is not being very kind to this woman. So Alex kind of freezes, and this guy looks up and is, well, let's just say he's more interested in dealing with Alex. So his woman manages to escape as let's just fast forward through this. This is the scene. A full 9+ minutes of him knocking Alex down and doing really, really awful things to her. The camera is on the ground, basically right in front of her face. Kind of how I always say about Martyrs, like the extended beating scenes of that movie, how in a twisted way it's kind of necessary because by the end of it, you felt everything Anna was going through. This is another case like that. It is shot for so long, so intimately, that if you're not feeling her pain, not literally, you fucking sickos, you definitely feel like an accomplice. Like you feel like you should be doing something about it. And you're just there witnessing this as a hopeless bystander who, I mean, all right, we'll break the fourth wall. You could always hit fast forward or hit stop. But you almost get so sucked into the moment, you feel trapped. And one thing I did not know about this scene, which makes it so much worse, something worse than what the fuck's happening to her, is early on in this moment, this is like in the middle of the tunnel. And again, you're right there in front of these two. Like they take up at least 3/4 of the frame. But you notice all the way down at the other end of the tunnel, you see a guy come down the stairs, walk in, he stops, looks over, and again, this is probably, 100 meters away, because, French and stuff. And he just quietly turns and walks back out. And that makes the moment worse. I mean, if you want to be a dick about it, it's none of his business. He don't know exactly what's going on. So he could come up and try to play hero, but who knows? This guy could have a gun. Who knows? He could be twisted to the point where he thinks maybe she attacked him and whatever the fuck he's doing. Because I don't know if he could see exactly what's happening. He might just be able to see, because you only see the silhouette of a person. You see no details. So from his angle, he might just see a male silhouette on top of another person. Like, he might not know exactly what's going on. So there could be that justification in his mind of, oh, whatever this person's doing, maybe this is out of self-defense and I shouldn't get involved. Or who knows, maybe he did see everything. All he knows is that there were two humans in the middle of that tunnel, something awful was going down, and he chose not to be part of it. And knowing what's actually happening, it does make that moment so much worse. Let's see how many more times I could say he made it worse. But after this person is done, he basically kicks the shit out of her, thus leading to the coma that she was in the previous later scene. Moving even more back in time, we see Marcus, Pierre, and Alex walking over. It looks like they're heading over to get on the train. I guess this is where we get our first glimpse that Pierre is Alex's ex, or vice versa. And this is, I mean, it's I've heard other people reference it this way, but they make it very obvious in this scene that Pierre's like the beta male here, which, I don't know, I feel a little attacked. Anyhow, he is obsessed with their sex life. Like, he is determined to get the secret. What's Marcus's secret that makes her come? And he's not just on Marcus on this one. He's asking Alex too. Like, what is it that he's doing that makes you come? What is he doing that I was not doing? And this is another, I don't know, I should have clocked it, but at least 5, but I feel like it was hitting closer to a 10-minute scene. And that's all it was, the three of them hanging out. And all he wants to know is what makes her come. Where did he fail? And even though he was supposed to be the more rational of the two friends, and again, I'm a creep. I get it. I say and ask fucked up things because, again, making people uncomfortable amuses me. But it's all in good fun. I'm not malicious about any of that shit. But Pierre pissed me off. Like, even I'm looking at him like, dude, you're a fucking scumbag. Whatever. To each their own. And, oops. Hold on a second. I got so tied up in wanting to shit on Pierre, I forgot about the scene in between. But it's basically the three of them at a party, hanging out, which I found out afterwards because, again, a lot of improv going on. Apparently, Noah wanted to, I guess, between keeping the budget down, but then also keeping a sense of realism, he just kind of shot things, and if there were real people involved, and apparently in this case, this party scene was at an actual party that they just kind of crashed with a film crew. I mean, I'm sure there was more involved to it, but, and that's why it seemed like, you know, hey, any party we were at back in the day. But yeah, they're hanging out. Alex is off dancing, trying to have a good time. Most of it focuses on Marcus and Pierre, and Marcus is just, he's doing blow. He's trying to hook up with girls under the guise of he's trying to get his boy laid. But it's like, hey, how about you give him a little something something, but, oh, I see your friend there. I'll take her while you're at it. And yeah, this is his moment of being a fucking scumbag. But apparently he can't hold his liquor and or hard drugs. And Pierre keeps saying, like, dude, fucking Alex, go spend time with Alex. Alex is your girl. Go hang out with her. She's dancing. You should be with her. Stop doing this. Let me do my own thing. And it turns out his whole thing is hanging out across the room and watching Alex dance, which I guess everybody has their vices. It's creepy, but technically he's not harming anyone. So then, yeah, we go to the train scene. That all passes, and then it goes back. Yeah, I'm skipping over a lot of shit too, but then we go back to, Alex and Marcus in bed. Post-coital, they're having a conversation. Now, at this point, I did not know the part. Obviously, I started doing a little bit of research after the fact, but I didn't realize that they were an actual couple. I don't know if they might have been married at the time, but at the very least, they were a real couple. Because I'm thinking, all right, I get professionalism and all, but it's like, these are two very attractive people doing a 10-minute scene of just hanging out in bed, in a room, completely naked. There were no implications here. They were both butt-ass naked. And apparently that's why. Because they were looking at shit they've already seen a bunch of times before. But they're hanging out, they're talking about this party they're going to go to, and about, Marcus is saying, like, hey, I kind of stole my boy's woman, so it's only fair that I hang out with him and spend time with him. And this is where Alex goes on to explain, well, nah, you didn't steal anybody. I made a choice. And I dig that. Taking a little accountability. The whole two to tango, but sorry, in a lot of these situations, it always feels like the blame goes in one direction. So at least they're willing to admit this was a team effort. They both did awful things, and it kind of screwed my man over. But yeah, they're hanging out. She's got somewhere to be. He's talking about how he's got to go pick up liquor. And then at one point she mentions about being late. And when she first said it, I thought she was late to be wherever she had to go. And no, she was late. And Marcus seemed to take it in stride. There was no confirmation, but just kind of giving him the heads up, like, we might be getting a jump start on certain phases of this relationship. So he ends up taking off to go pick up his liquor. And she goes over and grabs out of her bag a test. And I mean, they don't actually show the test, but, it's called acting. So turns out, came up positive. And when they were talking about it before she took the test, it was nice because, again, you're walking into this movie and Marcus is completely unhinged. So he definitely comes off as a psychopath. But at this point, which might even be the day before in the timeline, if not the morning of, he's coming on. I mean, he's kind of a dick still, but he's still being loving and caring. And when she mentioned that there's a chance she could be pregnant, he didn't really flinch that much. So you kind of got to see his more tender side. And then we go back one more time. The movie ends on Alex in a park reading a book about time. And the camera kind of zooms back, spirals out of control. You get a wider shot of the park and you see kids laughing and playing. And it's just a very beautiful shot of an innocent time before everyone's lives got not even flipped upside down. Like, some shit got fucked. And for the most part, that's it. Like I said, I know there's a bunch of points I missed out on, but this is that's the basic gist of the movie. Again, if you haven't seen it and you're up for checking certain disturbing films off your list, I'm not going to tell you not to, but it is a harsh one. I kind of referenced to it earlier, and yeah, the cinematography on this, it was pretty fucking mind-blowing. Like, I love how the first half of the movie, it's just, it's chaos, it's rage, it's, you know, you're in the thick of everybody's lost their shit, and the camera work aligns with that. Like I said, maybe not so much jerky, but the camera's always moving. You know, we're not worried about eye lines. We're not worried about, you know, typical framing. It's just, it disorients you. And then as the movie progresses, going earlier in the timeline, you notice the camera movement becomes more and more stable, to the point where the last half of the movie, when life is normal, you know, a lot more, I keep wanting to say stagnant, but, you know, a lot of soft pans, or just keeping the camera stationary. To play off that, I mean, there are cuts, but each one of these segments or scenes, they go on for a decent chunk of time. Because again, this is, I believe it's another one around 100 minutes long. And there's, less than 10 scenes? And they're pretty lengthy ones, of course. But the fact that a lot of it they were one-shots. So like, even when I was talking about the bedroom scene, when Marcus and Alex are in bed, like, the camera's just following them around. And it's another case of, it gives it almost like that documentary, you know, Gonzo style, like, footage. And I mean, I think it makes the movie better. It makes certain parts of it worse because it gives it that more realistic feel. But same thing, how I said in the beginning, not just the camera movements, but the lighting of everything. They keep it very dark, you know, a lot of reds going on because, I mean, again, in that first half, it's very violent. So, of course, you would want everything to have a reddish look to it. But after the tunnel scene, and we go back, like, with each shot, the coloring gets more and more vivid. And so I love how not only the way it was shot, but the coloring of this movie fits each scene. So when we get to the end/beginning of the movie, when we're at the park, it's very vibrant, very just rich colors. And I just love that. I'm sure when Noah went into this, again, he only had 3 or 4 pages written. So a lot of the dialogue was off the cuff. I'm sure to some extent he had a lot of the shots planned, but I don't know, I get this sense like some of that might even been on the fly. Like they were kind of figuring it with, okay, this is a scene where we do this. All right. And, you know, actually communicate. All right, how about if we try this? How about if we try this? Whatever the process was for shooting this, fucking kudos to everyone involved. If it helps anybody feel better, the tunnel scene, apparently, okay, this is what's going on in this scene. This is going to be the scene. Monica and I forget the actor's name who played the assailant, they basically directed the scene. He handed them full reins. This is what's going to go down. You guys, like I said, direct it. You choreograph. You guys figure out the details as to how this goes down. And you always hear these horror stories. I mean, you hear about Kubrick doing it, but you get these directors that are almost like method directors. Like they want to fuck with people to put them in the right frame of mind. So they're almost going method with their characters. Like, I love the fact that he's like, this is an awful thing that's about to happen, and I trust you to decide how this is going to go. And if I heard correctly, I think he said the only guardrail he threw in there was that it was not to go over 20 minutes. Other than that, whatever the two of you agree on, fucking perfect. And especially for a scene like that, like, you got to give the guy credit. Might not be a fan of his style, but for that moment, again, got to give him some credit. He's not a complete psychopath. Also, huge props to the cast, because again, almost all of this movie was improv. And it's funny because there's the one scene at the party where Marcus is, I forget the exact context, but basically he was introducing himself to someone, And he slips and says, I'm Vincent. So it was like they were so caught up in the moment, they almost forgot they were playing characters. Yeah, so almost to write and act in the moment, pretty great fucking job. And again, with each step of the way where you see people starting off one way and everybody's a complete 180 from the beginning to the end, or the end in the beginning, and, you know, all that shit. I told you I was going to make a lot of these backwards ass fucking references. But everybody's crumbling came off very believable. So this movie, I'm going to have to give it a split rating. I mean, I've kind of dabbled in that in the past, but this is... I would say from a filmmaking angle, I would say an 8.5. From an enjoyment or rewatchability, 5.5, 6. Like, it is a rough watch. And I know that sounds kind of hypocritical for the guy who talks about all the times of watching a Serbian film. Like, Serbian film is on a whole other level, to the point where it's awful things happening. There's no joy in watching that, but it's so awful, the things that are happening in that, it almost feels cartoonish. Whereas in this movie, again, it's shot in a way and it's acted in a way you almost feel like you're there. Again, like almost like a documentary feel. And you're a witness and or an accomplice to all this horrible shit going on. And that just makes, I'm going to say the line again, it just makes the events in this movie that much worse. And I think I'm going to end it there. Again, if you're the kind to have the checklist, by all means, watch this movie. It's a cinematic experience. So even if you're not a horror fan, well then, I don't know if you'd have any reason to be listening to this now anyway. But if you're just a fan of cinema, if you go into this with an analytical mind, it's probably worth a watch as well. And, yeah. I'm gonna go take a nice long shower. So if you made it this far, thanks again for hanging in there. And we will see you all real soon. Be well, be safe, stay creepy, and keep talking some damn horror. Doodles. Broadcast completed.
You've been listening to What an Excellent Day for a Podcast. Be sure to come on down to excellentdayforapodcast.com, where you'll find our entire catalog. And for your convenience, every episode contains a link where you can text the nerds. Want to throw some praise? Some critique? Perhaps you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like to see us tackle. But while you think about that, you can also check out the connections to all of our socials, including our YouTube channel. Give all them a visit. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with everybody you know. And for those feeling a little extra generous, there's also a button where you can support the show in other ways. Every bit of support helps. Well, that's it for this episode. And remember, stay creepy and keep talking some damn horror.